Welcome to the first Link by Golf podcast of 2025. I'm your host, Ross McGuire, and in this week's show, I'm delighted to be joined by Pete McLachlan. Pete has set up a new YouTube channel, Bogey Train Golf. His first episodes are already available on YouTube. In this episode of the podcast, we talk about the episodes he's released and his vision for the future. Let's go over to the show and hear from Pete. Welcome back, folks, to Link by Golf. In this week's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Pete McLachlan. Pete, great to have you with us. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Ross. Yep, I've made it to the podcast world. I feel like what I've been doing has obviously been working. So thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, no problem. So the podcast starts the same way every time, Pete. Pretty much, where are you from and how did you get into golf?
Yep, I'm from the suburb of Glasgow, south side of Glasgow, Newton Mearns. Yeah, born and raised there. I think how did I get onto golf is a pretty typical story that my dad took me for lessons at 8 years old. To where I bet so many people in south side of Glasgow start their golf at Royal Deacon's Bank driving range, a Muni that's now sort of been bought by a health club and stuff, but they had a driving range there for years, decades, and yeah, went there. Strangely enough, the pro there at the time would become a sort of life mentor, Kendall McQuaid, and he was starting.
Kendall. Brilliant.
Well, yeah, Kendall's a very, very, very close friend and was really the only guy, I kind of trusted to get some advice off. And when latterly I'd moved to Bonneton Golf Club, he was actually the resident pro there, so I had my own sort of coach that was there on hand. But yeah, I mean, the how is a pretty typical answer, but the why I started golf is maybe a more interesting one. And none of my family golf, Ross, which usually it's your dad or your grandpa or someone takes you along. But my dad at the time had his own second-hand car garage,
right.
And he came from very, very working class background, and he'd sort of set up this business that was doing quite well. And at that time, which would have been mid-90s, all the finance companies were really looking after you. Everybody was getting their car in finance, and the finance companies would run these golf days, and they would take you away. If you were doing quite well, they'd take you away to Spain. They would take you to nice places like Gleneagles, and my dad would always get invited along, and he was, not a golfer, so he was shredding it about and chopping it about, and he was just, his sort of thoughts were, my two sons, they'll be able to golf, and it'll be great for business was his sort of thing. But even back then, which is unbelievable. And then secondly, at that time, I was 8, so my brother would have been like 2 or 3 at the time. My mum had problems sort of sleeping after, brother was up in the middle of the night, and she would wake me up a lot to watch action movies, right? This is obviously not normal, but she was right into Jean-Claude Van Damme and Sylvester Stallone and all the action heroes of the time. So I grew up a total movie buff, which, I've always been right into my movies since then. So I really wanted to get into martial arts and boxing. And as a sort of Newton Mearns boy, my mum was like, well, I don't fancy sending you in there and, I'd be getting my ass kicked every day. So, golf, she doubled down on the idea of golf being quite good for me. So that was it. Yeah, 8 years old. Started the lessons, really enjoyed it. I think just like anyone, that first solid contact you get, you're like, you got the bug. And, back then we didn't have the junior facing or the thoughts to get people into early. So Eastwood Golf Club was one of the only golf clubs in the area that let kids in at 10. and I still didn't get in at 10, being on the waiting list from 8 years old. I got in at 11, and my dad picked Eastwood because of the age thing, and they'd sort of won their junior league that sort of previous year. And I went in there at 11, and unbelievably, there was like four guys out of the 5-man team. I think it's a 5 or 6 man team. Four guys went to America on a scholarship. So it was like unbelievable bed of talent, and I, did everything I could to hang about these guys, caddied for them, cleaned their golf clubs. I can still remember, weirdly, that I can remember every club and every one of their bags. I could name it right now. I just worshipped these guys, and one of them took a real liking to me. Probably the worst guy out of the lot of them, a guy called Davey Moffat. He was off like 3 or 4. The others that went to the States basically were telling their coaches, oh, there's a guy back home who's awesome, and got their buddy along for the ride. But Davey would come back in the summers and he would be like, Pete, you're going to be a lot better than I am, and you got to get over to the States and play college golf. And he had all the team kit, and I was like, oh, I just was like, that's for me, man. And I went about my junior career with sort of one goal in mind, which was to get a scholarship and go to the States. It was just something that I wanted to do. Yeah.
What kind of age did you notice that you were catching up with these guys and getting towards that sort of potential for getting to the States?
Well, I think when you're that age, just if you can hit the ball, I had some lessons, so I was ahead of sort of everyone at that age because I had lessons for a couple of years, and I was still rubbish, but I think you could hit the ball. I quickly realised that these guys were practicing at the club harder than anyone else. They were the best, so well, look, I'm just not going to leave this practice area until they leave. That was the sort of thinking, and I picked that up really young, and still to this day, I just love hitting golf balls. I could go and hit balls on just a range or whatever and enjoy it sometimes just as much as playing.
Yeah.
So that obviously helped me, and then really by chance when it turned for me was when I was 14. Remember it vividly. There's back then the SGU events were on a big poster, slap bang in the middle of your like club notice board. Yeah. And there was one of Scottish under 14s, and I was like, first of all, I thought I'd missed the cut because I was already 14, but it's under 14 1st of January, and I was like, no, I'm still eligible for that handicap. I was maybe off 7 or 8 at that time. And I went there. It was a 1-rounder at Edzell Golf Club.
Right.
And it started raining heavily. And I was like, here, I'm in for a chance here, because Glasgow boy, you just grew up playing in such rotten conditions. Inland course, you don't get the privilege of the nice links course, dry course in the winter. So I was like, I'm in a shout here. Everyone else will be raging. And I played round, I think shot a couple over, and I've won it. And then I'm sort of thinking, sitting about going, well, this is magic. And a guy comes in the last group, tied. So it's a playoff, right?
Wow. You made you play off at that age?
Playoff, head, sudden death, down the first.
Nice.
So I remember I went to the toilet. I was also nervous. Went for a nervous poo, and they're shouting me on the first tee, and they're like, honestly, I think they were trying to give it to the other guy. I run out, and he was an English boy. He'd come up from Newcastle, and he seemed to be right on it. He kind of had the gear and he had the entourage. He was also a bit of a player, and I won down the first extra, and my uncle Doogie was like my best pal. Turned round and slapped this guy in the back of the neck and was like, the English, we've done them again. And it was the guy's dad. So they're nearly rolling about the first green at Edsel, and I'm like, oh man, let's get in. And that was it. So was I even on sort of I was probably just on sort of county radar, and then all of a sudden I got a gold medal, under 14s championship in my bag, and then you're into the big world of Scotland squads and stuff. And I remember at the time, that
Oh
Drummoyg was
yeah.
the place, so I'm up there, and it was like funny. So I'm just like way out my zone here, man. And first guy I meet's Lloyd Saltman,
Right.
and he's like, "How you doing?" Blah blah, and he's like raging, right? He's walking about, and I said, "You all right, big man? You all right?" And he said, I've just been left out this under 16s team here." Um, he's like, I'm raging." So he hadn't kind of hit his like peak yet, and I remember speaking to him years later, and I said, "I remember you get left out that team," and he's just said, "Yeah," and then he just went to work for years and just won sort of everything. I think everything bar the British Amateur he won
Yeah.
in a couple of years, and I remember watching him in the British Open at St Andrews, finishing what they finished top 15 or something, and I remember watching it in my living room and just all day on a Sunday, just going, "Oh, he's the man," shouting at my mum, just order the Dominoes, mum, just order the Dominoes. Like Saltman's got a chance here at the Open, so yeah, he sort of raised the bar for everyone, and we all practiced harder and wanted to do what he was doing, and I think I kind of plateaued a bit for a couple of years, and then I was like still probably not it wasn't looking like I was going to get a full scholarship. I
Uh-huh.
wanted to play D1. I wanted to play D1 golf. That was important. Go over and play with the
Yeah.
best of the best. And
And you want to get in,
um,
you want to get a full scholarship and be a pick right from the start, don't you?
yeah. And that was the big thing for me. And then I was really, really lucky. My aunt and uncle, a different aunt and uncle, lived in Spain at the time. So I went all winter and stayed with them. Got a job in their course down near Marbella, called Santa
Nice.
Maria. I did like a course marshal, so like going right speed up play, which was just hilarious. I just used to take the buggy out to the far end of the course and go for a sleep. And
Chase people in the golf course.
I wasn't chasing anybody, but they gave me free golf, and I could practice there. So by the time I came back for the Scottish boys, and when I was 18, the first one, Scottish boys is the first tournament of the year. It's always free on great courses, Mercer, Southern S, West Kilbride, Dunbar. It used to be was the four. Great tracks, all of them. Very, very fond of them. But it was always freezing conditions, crap. Everyone's been inside for the winter, and I'd been like, oh, my hands were quite soft from those Spanish greens, and I was like,
Spanish hands.
I've got a wee chance here, and knocked out some big scalps, and I had the powerhouse that is Scott Henry in the semis, and he
Nice.
made swift work of me. But I kind of knew I was like, I'm onto something here.
Was that the
He went up.
that Scott won the double as well?
No, that was the year before.
Oh, okay.
I think that year he finished second in the stroke play, the Scottish stroke play,
Oh,
but the year before he won both.
yeah.
But yeah, he was the man, and I was like, do you know what? I was miles away from him, and I was getting closer, and I mean, he probably didn't think that, but I just was very confident. And then I went home, and I went on a great stretch, and I won my county boys stuff, match play and stroke play. I'm pretty sure, and then some local tournaments, and then pegged it up and won wire to wire in the Scottish youths, and then that was it.
Wow.
That was the fairy tale. So
Where was that
I
played?
Glenbervie.
All right.
So it used to be an open qualifying, and Sam Torrance had the course record 64. In the first round, I had 4 under, and then the second round, I had 8 under 63. So, went
Wow.
into the
That's some scoring.
into the clubhouse and dislodged his course record. No, I didn't. But he was there, and he congratulated me in his very Sam Torrance way. He was sort of a whiskey in one hand, and he was rolling a wee, it's not spliff, but a roll up ciggy in the
Aye.
other, and just went, come here, you. I said, yeah, how you doing, Mr. Torrance? And he went, 63, you prick. And I was like, yes. So that was it. And so, yeah, the background is his boy Danny played in the same sort of groups as me. But that was it. And then I had 36 holes the next day to try and get it over the line. I was a few ahead, and I was playing with no other than Russell Knox, who went on to be
Wow,
a
who
brilliant
knocks?
player. With Russell Knox went on to win 20
Yeah,
million in two PGA Tour events. So
still playing the tour as well.
yeah, yeah, he was very, very good off the tee. I mean, you could just tell the guy was going to have tons of chances if he kept his driving. But as like everything, it's not that easy at the time. And I remember again, and this made my family sound terrible, but his dad was caddying for him, who's an American guy, and I ran into a bit of a situation in the third round, I think it was, and my ball had ran up against this wall. The wheels of the trolley were really coming off here, and I was like, oh no! And my ball ran up against this wall, and I was trying to get a drop, and I was wanting to take a drop here, and I was going, Russell, are you happy with that? That's not closer? And his dad jumped in and was like, no, that's closer. And then my dad is in the crowd. He's then over going, you're not an effing referee, and they're almost kicking a bit. And I'm going, this is just carnage. And then managed to steady the ship and get it over the line with one of my best pals in the bag who wasn't really a golfer, and that was really a cool thing that we got to have together. And yeah, the Scottish Youth Champion, really very proud of winning that, and that punched my ticket for the rest of my life. That punched my ticket to get to the States,
Brilliant.
and and then that led into all the opportunities that I've been given through golf. And
So what
I was
college did you go to, Pete?
Yeah, I went to University of Missouri, Kansas City, which I suppose is a probably unheard of Division One uni. They've started to come good recently, and when I went there, it was a very young coach, and he's turned it into a great program. And they strangely went on a run with like French players, and
Right.
Anton Rosner, who's
What a player he is.
all but made Ryder Cup in the last
Yeah.
couple of times, just missed it. Great player. He came out of there, and there's been a couple other French boys that are thereabouts the tour. It just happens when you get a kind of run of different nationalities, but it's a good program now, and it was kind of starting its journey when I was there, so I probably didn't get the best out of it from a golf's perspective. But I loved the uni experience. It was going into the big bad world,
Yeah.
Kansas City, and it was a blast. It was a blast.
Brilliant. And all
Yeah,
that's been great prep for what you've embarked on now, which is having your own YouTube channel. So how
yeah,
did you get into deciding to
yeah,
put the Bogey Train show together? What was behind it?
yeah. Oh, great question. Yeah, I was working in a US performance marketing / affiliate company from about just really I started it just before COVID, and I was coming out of that. It was a really sort of start-up rocket ship. There was only 5 or 6 of us in it. I was kind of operations lead, just managing teams more than anything. We had a lot of big kind of contract teams, and I got to really understand sort of an online and a digital audience and building communities, and how to eventually make some money out of it. So that did really well, that business. And I then had to go work for the companies that started buying us. So that I knew that kind of contract was coming to an end. I had a 2-year earn-out deal with these acquiring businesses, and I was like, what's next? There's a time coming where I need to figure out the next plan. And yeah, Bogey Train was thought of. I'd seen like there's like a seismic shift in golf in how, people are digesting media and entertainment. Especially kids, you can see,
Yeah.
the viewings on the PGA Tour, European Tour. I mean, they're just like falling off a cliff, and the birth of like the YouTube golfer, which is not a new thing, but it's certainly hit its stride. And the recent news, which I just think is amazing. The guys at Good, were just YouTube golfers, but they've grown such a loyal audience that they then started their apparel business. Their apparel business is now got some inside information about how well that's doing in the US. They're saying it's, I think they're in Golf Galaxy and PGA Superstore. I mean, they're now like the
Wow.
number one apparel company. They're outselling like Nike and Adidas. Unbelievable. And
And
then
I
they're now
noticed, am I
they're
right in
now
saying that they even
sponsoring.
got a
They're
Callaway driver named after them or something?
Yeah, they've got a big strategic partnership with Callaway on the hardware side, but they've just signed, they signed Joel Damon, but they've signed like four pros to sponsor the pros. So the pros are wearing good
So wait a
apparel,
minute,
right? They're sponsoring it.
they're sponsoring the pros now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that happened last week, which I just love that story. And
Wow.
it's just four. It was like originally four kids. There's now a big squad of them, and they got a very clever guy that came in to manage that, who's in the background. And then obviously your Grant Horvat, and your Brian Rose have now been given shares in that Tacoma Golf. So the brands are recognizing the power of an audience,
Yeah.
and now they're really going for it. And yeah, the timing. I think there was the Rick Shields eras of like building an audience, and then this sort of American new YouTube Volume 2 guys have come out, and they're doing their thing. And I just thought it was like great. Why do you do anything yourself? You either love the market, you're either inventing something, or you think you can do something a bit better or different. And I thought especially in like Scotland, I think Scotland's very, very poor at marketing itself. I think the whole world, when you go elsewhere in the world and you talk about golf and you're like Scotland, they go home of golf. We don't really call home of golf. We maybe call St Andrews home of golf, but the
I
rest of the
think we're
world,
too, uh, it's a good summary. I think we're too blasé about it. Pete, there's so much we've got in Scotland in terms of golf that
Blazes,
the
Blazes,
number
it's
of
like
golf courses we have is outrageous, especially high quality
outrageous
ones.
per capita. We've seen that. I think it's only Iceland that are ahead of us because they've got a very small population and a lot of courses, but per capita, we're kind of number one in the world. You know, it's like, I think we're like asleep at the wheel here. I really do. I think, you know, the rest of the world who plays golf save their whole lives to come and play on Scottish courses. I mean, think about that. And I just think it's just,
And we
it's nuts.
people
And we are like,
people in Scotland are moaning about having to pay like 750 quid for a membership, and I get
I know,
things are expensive now, but
I know.
you take that outside view and it's phenomenal what we have.
Yeah, yeah. And, I'll talk about the trips we had, but, we went to the West Coast. We did Shiskin and Arran, and then we
Yeah, I
did
was going to ask. So
Mac Dunes. But, I mean, the price for memberships, I mean, it's nothing for
yeah,
what you get. These places are off the charts. And we played them in November, mid-November, and it was still the most beautiful, stunning places. And I think there's so much money that comes into Scotland. The big figure that gets branded about, it's £300 million comes to Scotland per annum through golf tourism. But, a lot of that will go to St Andrews. A lot of that goes to like maybe the big 12 courses or even less.
yeah.
And I think there's so much more to Scotland with these, unbelievable tracks that we have. And I'm like,
Oh, and
I think I can go and make some films about these places, and just show a bit of sort of what we've got on offer here, and tell the stories along the way. I think when I was younger, like anybody that gets to any sort of level of golf, they dream of playing the tour, and I was no different. I think it was maybe for the lifestyle. I quite fancied Learjets and driving Bentleys, but um, I don't know if like teeing up in a pro tour was like, I wanted it to play that sort of pressure golf, but I think looking back, my talent is telling stories, and I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever done a high school reunion, Ross. Have you ever went to a high school
Not
reunion?
yet. Never done one
Yeah.
yet, believe it or not.
So I went along. We did a 10-year one with my pals. It's the most strange and wonderful thing I've ever done in my life. But 20, yeah, so it's 28, and I went along, and this woman came up to me and introduced herself, and I didn't recognise her from school. She wasn't a particularly close friend, and she said, she wished me, she wished me her best, and she said, I used to come into school early because you were in the same form room class as me, and I had to come in and listen because I wanted to listen to you tell stories in the morning. And I was like, it was one of the nicest things someone's ever said to me. So I think, I came out of golf and went in and worked in different businesses and stuff. And a lot of my friends now, some of them don't know that I did play golf, but I think everyone that knows me will say, he just tells stories all the time in the pub, anywhere, anyone that'll listen, Ross, I'm telling them a story. So,
Perfect guy for a podcast.
well, yeah. You'll struggle to get me off. So yeah, my love for movies, my love for golf, Scottish golf, links golf, and telling stories. I was like, and I went out, and do you know the hardest thing is like pitching it to like the guys that I've got working for me or working with me, is like telling them this concept. And one of them, a young guy from St Andrews, Tom, great guy, and I'm kind of telling him, he's like, man, he's like, if you think you can pull this off, like I'm in. And he sort of I took a punt on him, and he took a punt on me, and what a laugh we've had, Ross. It's just been so much fun, man. And like, if any
Yeah,
of
no,
that can shine, if that can
I was going
shine
to
through in
say,
camera,
I
we're
think
doing, we're
it certainly did. So I just wanted to go
yeah.
back to first episode you filmed at Shiskeen Golf Club. So I just wanted to ask about what that experience was like, and for people that haven't watched the show yet, what they can expect from the show, and assuming the
Yeah,
people go there, what they're going to get when they arrive.
yeah. I think for me, in this whole thing is like, I'm not the subject matter. Yeah, I played golf to like a half decent level, and I can still like knock about, but that the story isn't me. So yeah, you will see me hit golf shots because I'm out there playing, but it's not me down the line every shot, and it's it's the course and the people and the communities and the clubs. So the club organised. I wrote to the club, and I spoke to Dougie the pro, and I said I would love someone to play with. This is what we're doing now. At this point, we're not launched anything, so clubs, you know, clubs are like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, look, we're trying to make a film. It's like a documentary. It's not, one of the best. The first comment I think we got on YouTube was just a guy, and he was like, 'Nice course vlog, mate.'" And I was like, "Course vlog?" I said it was a 7 hour rolling cameras, like drones going off. I said, "This is we're trying to make cinema here, you know."
High
It was like the
quality production, come on.
worst compliment ever, right? So we wrote to them, and I said, look, I would love someone to play with, preferably a character, chatty, that which works best. And he came back and said, I've got the person for you. I was like, great. And he's like, she's the vice captain, and will be the captain next year. Her name's Alice. And I was like, brilliant. We meet Alice, and she was just amazing. She would just star the show. Um,
Yeah, I thought it was great
sometimes
fun.
sometimes people clam up, Ross, when you put the mic on them, and it takes them a wee bit to like, lower their barriers and stuff like that. Like that. Put that on Alice, and she was just star of the show, man. She was just awesome. She knew she's she is a person at a golf club that every golf club dreams about. Huge, huge advocate of the club. Told me about what she's doing for lady members, how they encourage juniors. They don't have a junior. There's no junior membership fee. She knew the names of every hole, of every blade of grass, and just a really lovely person. So
Yeah.
the stories about Alice and the stories about Shiskin, and Shiskin is this. Shiskin's one of the places you'll know, Ross. Have you played it?
No, I've never
No,
been in
no.
Arran, believe it or not.
Have you never? Have you not? Have you not? So I don't know about you, but Shiskin's always one of those places kind of whispered to you, and that's the kind of myth. It's in the west side, Arran,
Yeah.
and it's 12-hole links, and you
Yeah, the
just go,
12 hole
what?
part
It's
I've always
so
known about.
strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're trying to build this in your head, 12-hole links, small island. There's not going to be tons of land to build a course there, and you just get there. Beautiful little. It's called the Tea Room, actually, the clubhouse,
Yeah.
and it's Shiskin Golf and Tennis Club. There's
I
tennis courts
noticed
there.
that, yeah.
That's just very cool. First tee is riding the beach on the left, tight as will be. I'm shit scared of hitting the left. I'm shaking on that first tee. It's so tight, the tee shot. There's millions of bailout right, but it's so tight. First shot of the whole thing. I can't sleep. I've not been, I've not been at my most confident golf going into it, and can't feel my hands over the shot. Close my eyes and just rip it down the middle. Couldn't believe it, and that's been really the whole business, is we've just sort of winged it, and it's worked out. So yeah, Shiskin, it's just a special place. It's got its own wee pro shop there. All the club, it's like a community club, and they also get a lot of people coming that are like country members, or it's so cheap anyway. I don't even think that the membership's that much to join, and it's just a real special. You look over and you see basically the Kintyre Peninsula, and over that small body of water there, and you get up there to the Crow's Nest, which is their famous sort of high point in the course, and just like the vantage point is just off the charts. And it's funny, when I played when I was a kid, and you play competition golf, you're so into like the scoring and trying to do something in the competition, win it or whatever, you sometimes forget where you're playing and the courses you get to
And
experience, and
what you're trying to experience, exactly.
yeah. And when I go now, really it's cliche or funny to say, fun is my barrier, fun is my scale now, and I'm just going out there to try and have as much fun as possible. And I go and play places like that, and it just blows you away, how good it is. And they wrote back to me, which was very sweet, after the video, and they shared it with all their members, and the members have all cherished it, and I've done it a good justice, which is really all we can ask for.
That's great.
So yeah, it's just like Alice and I going around seeing the whole place, and then it was cold, but really a beautiful lighting. So the water was the water was like a pond, and yeah, it was just great. They've got this. Well, he's quite famous. They have a couple of documentaries on him now. The Stuart, the greenkeeper, the Lynx Diary boys did a cracking job, doing a piece on him, and I'm shouting at him as soon as I see him. I never met the guy, and I'm shouting, I'm like, are you that famous greenkeeper? And he's like, oh, stop it. Stop it! I can't go anywhere. I can't go. So he was brilliant, man. He was awesome, and then everyone we met just totally got what we were trying to do. We didn't have even one follower at the time, so a cool place. Cannot wait to go back. What we're doing in the summer, actually, it's a bit of a kind of, it will be a kind of content type video. It's going to be like Top Gear. Basically, we're going to go to Ar and try and play all the courses in one day.
Brilliant.
So there's 7 courses. One of them's a pitch and putt. I think it's 2 18s, a 12, and 3 9s.
That's awesome.
So it'll be cool, and they've already said, please, when you're back here, like, you know, and I said, well, I want Alice to play with us, obviously. So we've met some great people. The thing about golf, isn't it? It's like, you meet some great people, and you're
Yeah,
almost friends for life, kind of thing, after spending two
absolutely.
hours, 4 hours with someone.
But
So
what was amazing for me was you did that in November and you just cracked on. But from
yeah,
Shiskin,
yeah,
you went in the boat. You went over to Campbelltown and then on to
yeah,
Macahari.
yeah.
So what was that
Well,
like?
yeah, it's a great trip. That it is definitely planes, trains, and automobiles. They have had, obviously, it's no new thing, severe disruption Ardrossan to Arran, or the mainland to Brodick, with the
Aye,
ferries. But the Glen Sannox, the new ferry, has just arrived, and it runs from Troon to Brodick.
yeah,
So that's all linked up now, which is very, very good for people coming to visit the island, and for the islanders themselves getting on and off. But there's this tiny little ferry. Well, it's not tiny, but it's like a small ferry from Lochranza, which is right at the top of Arran, and it goes over to Kintyre, and it goes to a
right.
couple of places depending on the time of year, um, Tarbert and Clinoig, I believe. I believe they're the 2 places. But anyway, we get over there, drive down to Campbelltown that night, and then we've got the two big superstars, Mac Aniston and Matt Jones, and then the last one we went down to play Dunaverty, which I'd never heard of. Alistair Mackenzie design, right
Wow,
at the bottom,
I didn't know that.
right at the bottom of the world, man. End of just at Mulligan. Special, special place, and that is an unbelievable story. Which is the video coming out on Saturday. Is it was frosted off. It was so cold. It was just like this film of ice. So we walked the course with the drone. We came in, and the captain's there, Willie Ralston, loveliest guy, and he goes like that. Have you heard of Belle Robertson? And I said, well, I have heard of Belle Robertson. So she's like, is she the most decorated Scottish golfer ever? Maybe. Female and male could be. She's MBE, honorary member of the RNA, legend, legend. She's 7 Curtis Cups and then captain too. She's the
Wow,
first Curtis Cup to win in the US, first GB&I team to win in the US Curtis Cup, and she was playing in it age 50.
what?
So she is just a legend.
Wow,
So she's 88, and they said, do you know what? I said, yeah, I know Belle. Oh, would you like to speak to her? We'll phone her up right now. And she came down, and I interviewed Belle
no
Robertson. It was
way.
like
Wow,
one of the best experiences of my life, man. She is just royalty. So regal, comes in. She's just so, for her age, man. She still plays. She says she'll go around 18 with a pencil bag in the summer, and she was just like, from a time long ago, of just like growing up. She grew up in Dunaverty, farmer's daughter, became a superstar, and then moved to Glasgow, and she got honorary memberships all over Scotland. She just
my goodness.
accolades, Scottish, British championships, played all over the world, and just Hall of Fame type lady. So that was, we didn't get to golf, but what an experience that was. And when I set this thing out, I knew there would be the odd interview. We interviewed the guy, Matt Jones, the head greenkeeper, course manager, James, who's building the second course there. So I knew there would be interviews along the way, but this was like sit down with someone really special, and I don't know how many interviews she does, and we felt very lucky. So we a bit of my sort of stuff is like definitely the modern take on golf, and adding in a bit of all the stuff I'm into, hip hop, punk rock,
But
whatever,
I
whatever.
think,
But
Pete, it's important to, a woman like that, I think it's really important to take these stories out to more people, because
yeah,
otherwise they can get forgotten or just not known about.
absolutely,
And it's really sad when that
absolutely.
happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, she talked for ages, and I'll tell you a funny one about the interview. She was amazing. She was walking us through, being from like she was when she started playing at 15 to 18. She was sort of playing for Scotland and this sort of development, and we go through this lovely, lovely interview, and then we sit down, we have lunch with her, right, and she just commands the room, and she was. It's hard to explain. You need to tune in and watch it, right? And
Absolutely.
we're sitting there at lunch, and Tom, who who's one of he sort of does everything, man, cameras, production, everything, right? So Tom lives in St Andrews, but he's from Sheffield. Whole thing, hasn't said a word yet, and turns around, we're just ending up this amazing day. We're really relaxed, and we're kind of not talking about golf now, and it's just kind of really meeting it. And he comes, first thing he says, Belle, what do you think about the golf ball rollback, right? and I'm just about falling off my seat. I was like, the golf ball roll, nobody cares. We're here with a legend. Shut up. So every time I go, that's like a running joke. I try and slip it into like anyone that's giving us an interview. I'm like,
What about the
what do you
golf
think
ball
about the golf
rollback?
ball rollback now? And he's
So,
on the
Pete,
see the
what
cap.
about the golf ball rollback?
I know. She actually gave a really interesting answer, but we didn't put it in. We didn't. We'd kind of stopped the
Brilliant.
cameras rolling by that point. But yeah. So some amazing experiences, but you know,
But also,
yeah.
the random you picked up in the van. What about that?
Mate, that was unbelievable. This was unbelievable, and stuff like that. You're like, this must be scripted, right? This must be. It was totally insane. So Mac Junes, I have to say, man, like, it is a resort and a destination place, and I'm certainly looking at a lot of these sort of older clubs, but we had to play it, and they're building another course there,
Yep.
and a whole sort of destination, and they just were really cool when we got in contact with them, and they just kind of really got what we're trying to do. So they came back to me and said, look, we're getting you the main man, James, and he's going to play some golf with you.
Brilliant.
So you want someone to play with, Ross, because it's a bit about the chat and like
Yeah,
playing,
of
and
course.
like it really helps. So I was like, that's magic, right? We don't have anything to worry about there. And he's going to tell us about this second course, and that's really great inside scoop. So this is all on like email and all that. So we get there, we're like half an hour before our time, get down there, and it's quite early, it's cold, and there's a guy in the car park. He's in greenkeeping stuff, right, in greenkeeping clothes, and I just kind of roll up to him, and me, I'm like mega relaxed. I'm like high five, hug, and he's like, "All right," and I'm like, "Yeah, how you, man?" And he's going, "Yeah, good, good," and I'm going, right. And I said, "You play?" And I was like, he wasn't in golf stuff, and I was like, "You playing? Are you playing with us?" And he's like, "Well, I could be, I could be." And I'm going, "Who is this? I don't know who this is." "Oh no, I don't, this." So then we go in. There's a young guy who's actually a green staff, and he's kind of working the clubhouse. Andrew, sweet guy, and I said, "Dude, Alan, who is that who we're playing with?" And he's like, "No, that's a guy just sleeping in his van." He's like, "I've just came down to open the place up, and there's a dude in a camper van. I don't think you're actually supposed to do that. He's in the club car park, and he's just stayed there overnight." And I'm like, "Oh, this is too good. This is too good. I need to get this guy going." So I went back out to him. I said, "Look, we're doing this thing. do you want to play? And he's like, oh mate, I'd love a playing partner. And I said, well, you need to have a mic on you. I said, we're filming. And he went, oh, this is great. You know, what's going on here? And it just turned into this like ridiculous thing. And then the two, Jack and Tom, who are doing the cameras and stuff, they don't realise this, right? So they don't know he's a random and all this. So it's like by the time they kind of understand what's going on, we're already away. And the guy, this is honestly what happened. It was like stars in your eyes. He goes, brilliant, brilliant, Pete, win me off. And I said, well, we need to go clip someone in the range, and then we're on the tee. And he went in his van, you know, the full side shutter, and it couldn't have been 30 seconds. Jumps out, full clobber, vintage golf, and sort of slides out like that. I'm ready. And I'm going, what is going on? This is nuts. And Scotty, man in the van, he was the man. And then he goes on
That's
and
awesome.
he'd telling this story that he'd sort of a 2 or 3 week window of work, and he'd had this kind of project van he'd had for years, and he's from way down south. He's from like Royal St George's, and he's like, I'd never seen St Andrews, and I wanted to come up, and he just sort of got up and he did this wee tour, and he was in Aberdeen, he played Trump Aberdeen. And somebody said to him, "You got to go play like down like one of the Macranish courses." And he drove down overnight from Aberdeen to Macranish. I mean, it was like taking me 6 hours, something like that, maybe more. And he slept in the van. He slept in the car park, and then he plays around.
That could not have been warm at that time of year. Imagine how cold it must have been in November.
Well, he said the van was all over the place, and he didn't get much sleep. But then we finish, and I get a couple of beers in him, and then we take him out for dinner and all that. It was great, man. His chat was amazing. And then he's phoned me up. He's really sent the video out to all his network. He's pure loving it. And then he's like, look, his dad is a caddy at Royal St George's, and he's like, I want to get you down here, and I want to get you filming down here. And we're like, oh man. So, you know, I think awesome. The way we've approached this from the start, Ross, is very open, and like nothing is. You got to have a concept and you know where you're playing and stuff, but everything else is like, you know, who's coming along for the ride, and he was top drawer, man. He was top drawer, and he kept giving me, this was a funny one when he was playing, and he was he wasn't playing that good to start off with, and he's like, you know, it's the cameras, Pedro. It's the cameras. He says, I've been ripping it for 2 weeks, and I was like, sure you have, mate. Sure you have. But he was a great sport, and then we went in and we had.
So van that's killing me. I can't sleep in that van. It's killing my backswing.
I know. So it was dead funny. Aye, it was great. So every video's been different, and Macranish was quite funny because I have this kind of, I'm raging when I go out. I have this kind of fight with air traffic control about the drone, right? So I go in. I said, "Is there a policy with the drone? Because if there's an airport, you have to be.
Right, okay.
There is procedures you need to go through our process." So I go in to the air traffic control guy, and he's like, "No, there's a flight coming in." I said, "Look, this drone's going 50 feet in the air." I said, "It's no," and he's going, "Nah," and then he's like, "Well, we need to inform the police, and the police then need this from you." And I'm like running on the tee here, and I was like, I said, "Just forget about it, mate." I said, "There'll be no drone going up today." So we went out, and I was just like fizzing, and I didn't have anyone to play with, and then I get stung for 2 6-quid balls that I lost.
Is that the real price?
Yeah. Aye. So it was a logoed ball. I mean, it was a beautiful ball, but I'd put
6 quid a go.
I know, and I said to the guy, and he was like, "How much then?" 6 quid, and then I'm like, I can't know, and I was like, "Oh no, too late now. They're up there
on camera. Need to pay."
I know. And then I lose them both by like the 8th or something. So I'm raging. But it was great, and it's, it's hard to explain if you haven't been to Macranish. And the guy James, the head guy at Mac Dunes, he said that he's been all over to these links areas. So he's been done that, Gulf Coast and the East Coast. He's went up to Fife. He's went up north. He's done the West Coast, the Ayrshire links. He's been to Northern Ireland, and he says that stretch of links there that they've got, that those two courses are on, he says it's some of the best links ground in the world. And I would have to say it was definitely up there. The land that Macrahanish sits on is off the charts. I think if you were to go back now, it's a great old course, and the members will just burn me at the stake for saying, but I think if you were to go back now and build a course at Macrahanish, I think it'd be one of the best courses in the world. And they're always voted sort of up there, but I think you could build the best course in the world on that stretch there. It is off the charts. It's like, and then there are deer running about very close to the beach. It's like,
I saw that in the
it's
videos.
stunning.
It's awesome.
Stunning. Yeah, it's stunning. But then again, you're out there on Macranish, and it's a very, very old bit of land. Old Tom was there, and there is some epic shots to be played there. So yeah, interesting. It's been great, man. It's been great. Yeah, we've just been loving it. The hard stuff's all the administrative side, the business model, the when you're away, but when we're out there
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The editing and the what it's like editing, even editing the podcast, it's just like they're the kind of tricky things to do.
Listen, first few episodes, I was there for hours just trying to
take
out tiny things that had to be done. But yeah, in videos even more difficult, of course, the amount of time you have to spend. Was it something like 5 minutes for every minute you put into a video? You do in editing as well?
I know. We've got it slicker and slicker and more streamlined, but we're picking up, it can sometimes be like 6 hours of footage with 2 rolling cameras, and then and audio, as it's difficult, and then giving something that people want to watch and want to watch right through, so it has to be punchy for that. We're trying to do stuff at like 35, 40 minutes, it's got to be punchy. You can't have people getting bored and then switching off. That kind of messes with the algorithm and stuff. So all that stuff's always tricky. But when we're there and we're out on the road, it's like a boy's holiday. It's great. And Jack's actually my stepbrother. He lives down south, but he's a great guy as well, and he's had great insights to like YouTube and they're both good golfers, which helps. They're both in their own right decent golfers, low single figures, so they understand where to stand, what to shoot, just stupid things like that, and what to pick up that's interesting or not. So it's working out well so far. We did this off course, but so a lot of them, obviously you've seen, it's just on course. Yeah. Now we went up to St Andrews for a couple of days and just did this. I just want to do something different. I think St Andrews is like, the old course is so special, but you've seen people walk over the Swilcan Bridge, and you've Absolutely. Seen that, and you've seen sort of the Jiggerin or the Dunvegan, which are great. But I was like, I love that town, man, and I don't think it gets the sort of love it should in terms of what else is out there. So we did some great stuff, man. And I think that footage, that will be, so I think that is our best footage. We go to the Keys Bar, which is like the locals pub in St Andrews. Right. Unbelievable experience. Do a whiskey tasting there. We go to St Andrews Brewing Company and what they're doing there, brewing that amazing craft beer in the town. So they do a beer tasting for us. We find this guy. Oh, this is unbelievable. We find this guy. There's the aquarium there. Do you know the aquarium?
Yep.
There's a wee sort of shack at the side of it, and there's a guy in there, James, making the best burgers you ever had in your life. And he is an unbelievable character. He's spent 8 years trying to perfect a burger, right? So we go That's his wife. Best burgers I had. $8. It's 80 yards from the 18th green. Like unbelievable. Nobody knows it there. He doesn't do any promotion, just word of mouth. It's off the charts. He We're in there, and he's went really to the unbelievable degree of how you construct a burger, right? So he's got the fries, and people obviously can't see this, but he's got the fries in a bowl, and he's got the salt up here, and he's shaking and he's swirling both things like that, and he's like, you got to swirl it, and I'm going, so we're in the kitchen with him, and it is like, what an experience that is, and just very bare bones, sort of burger shack, and see for a snack after the golf. I mean, frightening how good that place is. And then we went, my mate, my best pal, he's like one of the teaching pros at the Lynx Academy. So Scotty takes us about there, which is cool. And we've got this great story that Scotty was the official scorer at the Open at St Andrews. So he played Saturday, Sunday. At the Open at St Andrews. Wow. As the scorer with the guy who made the cut in the last. If the cut goes to an odd number, they have to play with someone, and Scotty played, and I was on the bag. So we had this amazing weekend, the 150th Open. I was so drunk for 3 days, and it was a total time of my life type stuff. So we talk a bit about that, and we're super close, so that was cool. And then we go up to this guy, Hamish, who owns the St Andrews Golf Company, right? He's the last guy making like hickory shafts, mass producing hickory shafted clubs. So he's got a factory just outside town. The shop is right beside the 18th. It's right beside Ochterlonies. And he's up there, and he was a wee bit like, what you guys doing this for and stuff like that. And I said, look, man, see all these guys with me, they're golf nerds. I said, go hard into this stuff. And then he was like, I get it. And he's in the factory and he's showing us. And Augusta, the Bobby Jones's family, the Jones family reached out to him and said they wanted a replica of Calamity Jane for the Augusta members. And he's like, well, this will be some order and all that. We've got that. So he made this beautiful, obviously, hickory putter that is, Bobby Jones's Calamity Jane blade thing with Augusta, and it's just stunning. And he kept one for himself, but cool place and things to do. So that's very different. I don't see much stuff like that out there. So hey, we'll see, mate. We'll see, but it's been fun so far.
No, it's brilliant, and I really enjoyed watching the episodes. So, what else have you got that's coming out without giving everything away? What are the sneak peeks?
Yeah, no, I'm happy. And the sneak peeks, we play Anstruther, 9 holes, with Kelsey McDonald, who is playing. She's on a medical exemption. She's going back to play a full year on the Ladies European Tour. Absolute superstar. And Kelsey has, even from like my junior days, I remember I told her a story and she was just crying with laughter. But there used to be an old club maker up in St Andrews called Ed. I can't even remember his set name, which is terrible, but he was in the Lynx Academy, and he was an old master fitter. Right. The only guy really still building golf clubs, and they were selling the Miura blades at the time. So I went up when I was like 18, and it was a bit of a present to go get fitted for Miura blades. And I go up, and the guy Ed's fitting me, and I'm like, thinking I'm a superstar at the time, and I wasn't. And I'm like, here's these Miura blades, and he's like, well, do you know they're 1,200, 1,500 quid? And I was like, oh shit, I've not got that budget. I was like, you get anything cheaper, right? And they did a cheaper version called KZGs, and they fitted me for them. And I was like, give me extra stiff shafts, heavy extra. And he's like, dude, you don't have that in the bag, man. You don't have that in the bag. I was like, and then he kind of fought me off the extra stuff, and then there was this beautiful driver shaft, and I was like, I want to try the drivers, and I was like, give me this like purple ice or something. I can't remember. Beautiful shaft, extra stuff. Nobody had it. I was like, give me that stuff, and he's like, look, there's only one person who's been able to hit that shaft. You are not going to be that person. So there's been one person here who has hit that shaft. And I'm like, who's this? And he's like, it's Kelsey McDonald. Right. And she's like, I think she's a couple of years younger than me. And I was like, no way, man, no way. And yeah, she just rips the golf ball. So we had 9 holes with her. It was our first time back on the course after injury. So we were blessed with that. It was cool, man. And then we went for a chippy with her in Anstruther, of course.
As you do. You have to.
As you do. So that was cool. And then we did West Kilbride, which is one of my favourites. So I turned pro and did my assistant, my PGA stuff when I was 20. And my first job was West Kilbride.
Right.
So I went down there with Ian Garrick, who was at Eastwood where I was as a junior. And he is just, we dar. So that's what the episode's called. We dar.
Seriously?
Yeah. So as you know, he's one of the all-time patter merchants, and actually I hadn't been down in ages, and it was definitely a sort of bittersweet being down there, my first job, because the kind of dream of tour golf was over, and it was like, what am I going to be now? Is that a teaching pro? And I never really knew how I swung it myself, so I never felt confident in instructing folk how to swing it. I was just a totally feel guy and hit different shots, so I never really got technical lessons. So, I was there. I wasn't a good coach. The club jobs, as you know, it's very hard to get a good club job, and yeah, it was kind of bittersweet for me. So it was a shame because I love that place, man. West Kilbride's so cool. One of the best, most scenic courses. You're never more than 150 yards from the beach. You look over and you see Aaron, just spectacular. So it was amazing going back to see him, and was welcomed with open arms. And I loved being back there and talking to. There was a couple of old members that came on camera that had been down there for years, and they were just great to me. So we went out and played a bit with Dar, and we get hit with a bit of weather, but we got some great stuff because, he coached Louise Duncan from when she was a kid, and great stories of him going over to, she wins the British Amateur. She does so well in the British Open as an amateur, and then she goes over and she plays in America, and she played that ANWA, Augusta National Women's Amateur, and we Dar's like, I'm like, Pedro, I'm a barhead boy, and all of a sudden I've got a Friday night dinner at Augusta, and I'm like, how good is this? So, that was like brilliant stories with him. So that'll be something, they're all different, which I like and which I'm proud about putting out. So there's about 10 there to go out, just maybe 9 or 10. And then we're back on the road in February. We're going down to Southerness and Sillith. We're crossing the border.
Brilliant.
But Southerness is very special to me. Awesome place. Going to say an outrageous comment here, and I would say, for me, outside the old course, it's probably up there at the top for me, and where I love to play. Southerness and Nairn probably joint top. Old course for me still, can't really rank that. It's a religious experience going there, as I say to people, and I'm not religious, but if golf's the religion, that's the church, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
So it's been loads of different things, and I think, I've had a couple of funny comments, just like idiots coming on and giving you a bit of lip, but the 99.9% of people have come on and said, really love this. I don't know what it is, and I don't know what I'm watching here, but I'm enjoying it. So that's all I need to keep going.
I think what people want now, Pete, is real life in a sense. They're
Yeah,
not so
yeah,
interested in a lot of kind of fake stories about how folk are telling you the most amazing things about the world, but they're just getting paid for it. You're going out there and
yeah,
you're
yeah,
experiencing real, real things with real people. And
yeah.
that's
I
what I
think
really
there's a
picked
really,
up in the videos. It is real
yeah,
people that you're playing golf with.
yeah, yeah. Very relatable has been the big comment. It's like, I don't care if you're a +4 or a 36. If you love your golf and you've got a story and a community to talk about, I'm all ears. And as long as we go out there and have some fun, I don't care. So I think a lot of people have been like, we're on board with that sort of stuff.
Brilliant. So just wrapping up here, Pete, just wanted to check in on social media handles for the show. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I suppose her long form, so our actual episodes are on YouTube, and it's Bogey Train Films.
Brilliant.
So that's where you go and you watch the 40-minute episodes, and then the 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 Instagram handle or handles is where um we'll put all the shorts, and we'll put all the snippets and all the funny bits, and keep people updated. What we're doing on Instagram is we're doing before the release. So every video, the long stuff is going up every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on YouTube,
Right.
and then on
Uh-huh.
Instagram the week prior we'll show you sort of the stuff that's in that video and like where we're going and stuff. So that one is Bogey Train Show on on Instagram, and that's where you'll see it. Yeah, Bogey Train Show, and that's where you'll see sort of all the different outtakes, keeping you posted about everything. Something we're doing a little bit as well in the travel, the logistics, because people are like, how do you get to Arran? How do you get to Machrihanish or whatever? So we keep people posted with that, how to do it, how to do these trips, what they're costing. I think that's a big thing. We've heard your Turnberries and your Kingsbarns, charging a lot of money for green fees, and that's not affordable to a lot of people. So we're trying to play places that are spectacular, but you're not going to break the bank playing, which is
That's
important.
great. Brilliant. Well, listen, Pete, thanks for joining the podcast. Really appreciate you being on, and best of luck with the show. I really enjoyed it myself, so looking forward to seeing how you
Thanks,
guys go on.
thanks, Ross. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me, mate.
Thanks for listening, folks. I really enjoyed catching up with Pete, and I'm sure you'll have great fun watching his new episodes on YouTube and catching up with him on Instagram as he brings those further episodes out. I'm looking forward to recording more episodes of the podcast in the future. I'll have another show out soon. In the meantime, have a great day. Bye bye.